Hello, and welcome to Portsmouth This Week. I'm your host, Conley Zani. This show is under the auspices of Rich Rayner, our Portsmouth Town Administrator. Together, Rich, myself, and the entire Portsmouth This Week team are on a mission to build community. We do that by bringing you accurate and timely information about the issues and events that impact you. We introduce you to the faces, the personalities, the leaders in this magical place in which we live. I'm so excited today to have back on our show, Ray Perry. Welcome back, Ray.
Hi, Conley.
Yes, you're with the
back.
Portsmouth Emergency Management, is it Association?
Agency.
Agency,
Yes,
thank you.
yep.
Yeah, so you've been on the show before, and I know you were one of the busiest guys in town, and we have so many things we could talk about, but I asked you to kind of put together a focus. So will you tell our viewers what you want to try to cover in this show?
Yeah, and thank you for allowing me to do this, because in the
please.
past I've just talked about, like our program and what we're doing, trying to build resiliency and all the volunteer groups and all that. But, I appreciate you allowing me maybe to actually kind of provide some preparedness information that I know from experience, and having done this presentation with a lot of people, have helped a lot of people as far as preparing for disasters, very much so on a personal level. Yeah. So what I'd like to do, if it's okay, is just kind of do a little quick update on, since the last time we met,
right?
Some of the stuff that's PEMA's doing and some of our volunteers. And then I'd like to share maybe a couple of real world stories that happen locally in the New England area, and
bring it home for us, right?
Yeah, and the results of that, and then relate that to what I really like to talk about is families and even businesses understanding what happens in a disaster and how important their family records, their vital records are. Just for them personally, but also in the recovery process type of a thing.
That's
and
so
just give you some guidance. And there's been a lot of developments actually recently. There's a lot of job aids and tools out there that can actually help families and businesses actually prepare in this area and stuff.
Great, I think that's a perfect idea, right?
And we've actually, my family, I was in the military, we've actually been doing this since my kids were toddlers. They're all grown up and working now, and so it's worked. It's actually helped on a monthly basis in the home front.
Yeah,
so,
and I can
so
see
we'll get
here
into
you've brought something that we might open later that has
it's messy. I just
little
ran home
show
and
and
grabbed
tell
it,
here, but so just so everybody knows why we have
it's
this
just it's just proof that I do have a system myself. I'm not just not just lecturing here. So
awesome. Okay, so back up. You said you wanted to just do a quick overview of some of the accomplishments, some of the things that have been on your plate since we last spoke.
And not my plate, but our plates. There's a lot of people that are working on the different things that deal with, disaster preparedness and stuff. But one of the big things I'm sure a lot of people have heard about is, we're updating our hazard mitigation plan, and we've moved to a regional plan. So it's covering Newport, Middletown, and Portsmouth. And
so excited about that regional focus, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yep.
that's, yeah.
Yeah, and it helps me out, particularly on the operation. One of the things that this plan we're focusing on too is kind of the operational type of resiliency that goes along with it too. So, is our evacuation plan, is it aligned with Middletown and Newport and the rest of the state? So we're doing that type of thing. We're looking at, if we have to really stand up a big incident command post or an emergency operations center, it takes a lot of people to do that with some skill sets. And so if we can combine that, that's some of the things that we're looking at in the plan.
Is that plan kind of in the works right now? Is it
very
under
much
construction?
so.
Is
Yes.
it done? Where are we in the process?
So we've actually had a number of public meetings. We've gotten input from all the municipalities and the neighborhood committees and all that. And it's being compiled right now by our contractor. And then it will go out for everybody. They'll be able to take a second look at it and stuff. There are some things in there that we're doing some research on to see if we can actually accomplish type of things. Like, I know, like with the University of Rhode Island, they have a new program called Rhode Island Champ and stuff. And that's going to help us actually, if a storm's coming in and we know the impact, we know the characteristics about the storm, it will actually be able to tell us, how certain properties, how they will be damaged and stuff like that. So to what extent? Yeah, so that helps us in advance.
Well, let me ask you, in these public meetings, you know, are people coming in support of this? Are they coming to push back on this? Are they coming to, they have their own
input.
agenda?
Yeah, no.
What's going on in those meetings?
Yeah, so, we've had public meetings, so we actually set everything up, and they actually go through and they provide their input. What's of interest to them? What do they think that we need to do to make our neighborhoods, our shorelines, whatever, our public buildings and all that stuff a little bit more resilient? And so they've gathered all that information. The contractors are putting it in and compiling it into categories and stuff. And so,
is there anything that stands out to you that was like, that's an interesting idea, or that's a crazy idea, or that's I'm shocked to hear that?
Well, some of that response stuff and recovery stuff is in there, which we usually have. Most of them have been kind of like construction projects and stuff like that. But you know, it's a lot of it, the waterways management, the shoreline resiliency against the rising seas and all that. So it's just expanding on that. Our buildings, our infrastructure, and all that. Our dams, our roads, all that.
It's great to hear that this is coming together. I mean, certainly, I think I live in Common Point, and our organization there, you know, we're trying to apply for some grants, and they're like, we need your hazard mitigation plan. And so it's just wonderful to hear that that's coming together right now regionally, and that'll just make everything that much more powerful.
And we're updating the local one. So we had plans before, but now we're updating it. It's going to be a kind of a regional type of a focus.
That's huge. What else is going on?
We're doing evacuation planning, really looking at the critical needs, transportation needs of special needs people and stuff like that. I'm working on the whole town has worked on our website, so I don't know if you've been on the town website. It looks a lot different right now. The emergency management page is not that nice looking right now, but the reason for that is because I'm really doing a lot of work on it offline, and the work that I'm doing, for instance, I have 38 topics. One of them we're going to be talking about today, vital records and stuff, but I have 38 topics on there, but a lot of those topics are interdependent with the other links and stuff, so I'm building
right now.
I'm building it upline, and then we'll download it when we're completely done with it. But I hope to have that done in the next couple of months. So.
Oh wow, Ray, that's a lot of work.
And we've submitted a couple of plans since the last time. We've submitted a storm readiness plan to the National Weather Service, so we're waiting for that to come back. We're drafting right now a comprehensive plan to establish a volunteer reception center. So during a disaster, we're damaged, so people come in, resources will start coming in, volunteer groups, like Red Cross, Team Rubicon and all that. Donations will start flowing in. The management of that can become overwhelming during a disaster. So we have a model we're putting together where we actually have a location, we're setting up a volunteer reception center where all that stuff can be managed.
It's just like a central point.
Right, where people can go and say, okay, we want to volunteer, and then we can place them and start tracking them and manage them and make sure they're going to be safe and all that sort of stuff. So,
so
we're doing all that
up front. Is yet, or?
We actually meeting. No, I don't want to yet, but we're meeting with a prospective local person that's going to give us a spot next week. Next week,
Breaking news.
It's not. I just don't want to put them on the spot until they commit, type of a thing.
Hey, I think that's smart.
And our volunteers teams, our neighborhood preparedness committees are doing really well. Common Fence Point, we just had a meeting this week, and they're actually planning 3 events in the next month, public things. So one of them is actually the use of radios, handheld radios. The public uses it and actually communicates with my communication teams and helps us with situational pictures. So they're going to get training on that and decide if they want to do it. But there's these nice cheap radios and stuff. They're going to be doing something. Department of Health is going to be coming down and doing some preparedness stuff. So a presentation on that. And then
that's a very amazing committee.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. And then Rhode Island DEM, they're looking to get DEM to come down to talk about grants that they have associated with resiliency type things. So we get educated on that. And of course they invite the whole community. So so that's that.
And even outside the community, anybody can come to those. I feel like Common Fence Point's trying to be a little bit of a model leader for other neighborhoods.
They were first, and they've got well organized, and they've got the association. So they got a lot of things going for them.
Really well, thank you for all of that.
So,
all right, so you had a couple real-world stories to share, right?
Yeah. So what this relates to is I just thought I'd take this, and I thank you guys for letting me do this, but this is real critical, and you'll see as I go through this why. But I wanted to talk about vital records. Basically those are the records you don't want to lose forever. all right? And they include documents on your health care, security, your investments, your property, your life achievements from training records and certifications, and those memories that your family has, your pictures, your photographs and stuff, you just don't want to lose them. You'll hear after disasters, and you'll hear it on the news a lot, you'll see it, they'll talk to somebody whose house was just wiped away. And the first thing they say is, oh, thank God we're alive. And then the second thing is, I've lost all my pictures. And stuff like that. And then, what you don't hear on the news is all the other documentation, because that all of a sudden that realization comes a few days or a week later that can really be devastating. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to just maybe start out with a couple of stories.
Make it real for us. Like get out of theory land and into like, here's some people that might have been your neighbors, right?
And these are real stories of records that were lost here locally. By our neighbors, pretty much. So just a little background. So I was, I served in the Coast Guard for a long, long time. And I was a commanding officer of several units. I was also the commander of multiple units. So at one time I had, actually when I was sector commander up here in New England, I had 18 units underneath me. So it's like 18 fire departments or something like that. But one of my responsibilities was to perform what we call death notifications. So this was to families of deceased service members, but also to the families of people lost at sea. We weren't able to rescue them. We weren't able to find them and stuff like that. But the other thing that the Coast Guard does is, like, when we have a marine casualty like that, we do an investigation for cause, because we don't want it to happen again. And that might take about a year or a year and a half. So as a commanding officer, I keep in contact with the families. And so we have two incidents here I'm going to use as an example. We had, when I was a sector commander there, we had a fishing vessel out of New Bedford go off St. George's, and family members were all on the boat, uncles, cousins, the skipper and stuff like that. They're all family members. Wasn't a rough day or anything. Long story short, they bring up a big haul. Something happened. It pulled the boat down. The boat flipped over. 4 people in the crew. 3 people, the boat flipped over. I mean, huge boat, and they didn't even get wet. They crawled up and walked up on the bottom of the hull and stuff. But the skipper did what he's supposed to do. When they're pulling in a net, they're all back on deck. He ran up to the wheelhouse. He got sucked down into the engine. We never found him. Okay, so we did all the search and stuff. Long story short is, I used to be a commercial fisherman before I went into the Coast Guard and stuff. I get along with the fishermen and fishermen families and stuff really well.
World.
So long story short is, so I was visiting the family one time, and the wife of the captain, who she just lost her husband, beautiful, wonderful, wonderful Portuguese family out of New Bedford and stuff. And she brought me to the house. She showed me this picture of their house when they were in Portugal. It was like a mansion. It was like a mansion on Bellevue Avenue, right? Wow. But they had like three of their families, living in there and stuff. And she told me, she said she had lost her uncle at sea off of South America fishing, and her grandfather. This house was her grandfather's house, and they all lived in there. But he had all the paperwork. He had access to everything. Long story short is, they had to move out of that house for 11 years until they got all the legal stuff squared away on the property ownership and all that sort of stuff. Okay, yeah. Another local thing, I had a cohogger out in Narragansett Bay. Again, this is about 10, 12, 13 years ago. He went overboard, 37 years old, not married, no children or anything like that, single. He went overboard. We never found him. His closest relative was a sister. He owned 3 triple-decker houses in Pawtucket and Cranston, and he was doing pretty well and stuff like that. She struggled for 6 months trying to figure out all the legal stuff associated with that, because they didn't have a records program in place. So if you kind of think of the stuff that's happened with the storms down in South and the hurricanes and the people lost and the amount of property that's been damaged and the loss of the records, it's devastating, okay? So it took them 11 years to kind of figure out.
Unwinding and untangling and trying to prove who the owner is or whatever needs to happen, right? And it's just without those records and. So
so there's this is actually going to be on my website, because I have a specific thing on this topic, on vital records and stuff like that. But I'll just kind of throw out there some of the document types that we're talking about, the categories. You know, your financial records from bank statements, income proof, recent utility bills, your insurance documentations, property, your deeds, your titles, legal documents, your wills, power of attorney, your social security cards, all your financial documents, you know, your pet records, your medical information, identification documents from passports, marriage certificates, all that type of stuff. You know, my daughter's adopted, so her adopted papers are in here and all that sort of stuff. Emergency contact lists. You know, again, if that stuff's gone, your house is gone. There was a fire or something, all of a sudden it's all gone.
I don't know how to get in touch with them anymore, right? Yeah.
And then again, even those sentimental documents, we talk about photos, letters, cards, specific stuff to our family, historical stuff of historical significance, training records and all that. Most of us right now, what we do is we file that stuff all in different files in our house, right? And then we got to go find it. We're looking at which file is it in, right? And so, you know, records of my military service and training and all that sort of stuff. So, so basically the fundamental system is you have kind of a go kit like here. Here's mine. We've used it for many years, and it's got everything in there. We've got a folder. I'm not going to pull it out right now, but it's got folder and things are tabbed in there, but there's a lot of other things in there, medical records, some pictures of my parents that are original type stuff and my grandparents and things like that. So, so they're all in there. What's nice about this is we've used it for so many years. We actually, the kids know, we update it between Christmas and New Year's, right? So we got kind of a system going, and everybody knows, you know, you have something coming up and the kid needs a document for something. We know it's in there. We're not looking through files. Where did we put it or something like that? So it's actually been a time saver on a day-to-day basis type of a thing.
On just the regular kinds of things.
And if I won't pull the binder off, there's a binder, so you have like my, you know, my electric bill. So I have, if that changes, something changes in that or in a bank account or something, then I'll put the most recent. I'm dying to just peek. Can we
just
peek?
Yeah.
So you got.
Okay. Yeah, I know our viewers might not really be able to see, but it's full of documents
and
here.
It is messy, and that's reality, but we know everything's in here. So this is like all our passports. These are training certificates, and this is our flood insurance, all our flood insurance papers, medical records, the animals, the dogs' medical records. These are some of my key military stuff. You know, this is this is just medical stuff. All right.
Yeah, right.
But all those things that I'll need later on, we have extra copies of a lot of our credit cards and things like that. So you have duplicates of all that sort of stuff. And again, like this is the one that we kind of flip on and off. So if something new comes, we'll take the old one out. But you know, military, I served at so many places. I have so many addresses I've been to, but you have to keep track of that because that'll come back.
Because they always ask you, right?
Yeah. My wife's from Colombia, South America, so her citizenship papers, marriage certificates, baptism certificate, everything is in here. So
wow,
anyways,
you might be the most organized person I know.
It's messy, but it's really efficient. And this sits near my front door. Everybody knows that, okay?
It's like a go bag. It's a go. What do you? A go kit.
A go kit. Yep.
A go kit. Yeah.
And a lot of this stuff is digitized too. So we'll talk about it's all digitized. So we duplicated everything also. It's not only online, but a lot of the stuff there my brother has as well. He lives in Florida, not the best place, but you've got that geographical separation so that if I were to lose mine, we have somebody that has access to it, and so that's really really critical.
That's cool.
So the kind of idea is, you know, you want to be able to recover these documents. So you really kind of want to think about you know, how you're doing it, how you're putting your system together. The other thing too is think about recovery. So if you have a disaster going on, right, and your property is damaged, right, and now you're going to put in for public assistance with FEMA or something like that, it's a good idea to, a lot of people forget about this, but you should have the documentation on your house right now, okay? So obviously we have all our tax information in there and stuff, and we have that online. But what I tell people to do is once a year or whatever, just photograph your property. Okay, if you know a hurricane's going, photograph all around it, your cars, your vehicles, all your valuables and things like that, because you have to prove that that was actually damaged by that storm. It wasn't damaged beforehand, right? So
that seems burdensome.
Well, it's not that hard. I mean, you just kind of photograph it, but
it's not hard, but on principle, I have a reaction to that of like, seriously. I've just been in a hurricane. My life's destroyed, and you're like, well, prove it. Like, I just find that obnoxious. I'm not saying you're not you.
Okay.
But like, right?
Yep. So that actually gets to my next point here, because I track a lot of this stuff, and I see after disasters. I've been on a lot of disasters. I've seen a lot of corruption and misuse of funds.
And so this is naive. I'm like,
a lot of this,
people would
a lot
do
of this is our tax dollars, right? So we have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that people aren't doing something wrong with the system, and they do that, unfortunately. Some of the things
you've seen that, like you're like, I can.
Oh, yes.
Swear to God,
Particularly during oil spills and stuff like that, where you've got an industry responsible and they've got to pay for it and something like that. Like I was down in Deepwater Horizon, and there was a lot of that going on and stuff. So, but you'll also see, what I'll see too is so FEMA wants to get money out. They want to help people right away, all right? And so they get the checks out and stuff like that. But they got to go back and verify and validate that. The government accounting office is going to say, have you followed the laws and the regulations associated with it? And I see all the time, I get the notices, the government accounting office will come back and tell a municipality, you didn't deserve this money. You have to give us back $1 million. So here's a municipality who's been harmed, or a resident who's been harmed, but they don't have proper documentation, and they have to do that type of a thing. So that's why these vital records are really important. And it's not that hard to document where your house is right now, just your house, your property, and stuff like that.
Got to do it.
Yeah.
I hope everybody watches this.
A lot of the Common Defense Point people are doing it now because of the preparedness committee. They know that at the beginning of the season they'll just photograph their house and stuff and something new. The other thing too is when you get your house and stuff and your resident, if you've made a modification to it, done an improvement to your house, you want to keep the records associated with that, because now that adds to the value of your house and so on, and you can show that, hey, this was damaged. So keep the contractor receipts and stuff like that, even the floor plans and all that. That should become part of your vital records, and just be natural. Say, okay, this is something that's showing value. I'm going to maintain that and keep that and stuff. So
I'm so glad you're here saying that to me right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to go do it.
Yeah. So the big thing is create a system that works for you. Some of the basic concepts is, your records will be copied, multiple copies of things. Like I said, I've got a set here that goes down to my brother. But a lot of that's electronic, so a lot of you can do physical copies, external hard drives, cloud storage, and even individual thumb drives and stuff. So that's all backup. I have some thumb drives in here with all the pictures in it and stuff like that are all scanned in. You want it in multiple locations, and when we say multiple locations, you really want it in different hazard regions. So don't put it just 40 miles away. That's not enough. But if you're in Rhode Island and you've got a family member up in Ohio, that might be a good place to have a copy of some of these things. And you can secure these things. They don't have to have access to it and stuff like that. So there are systems that will actually secure it, and then you can get access to it later on. But you want an easy grab and go. There are Google Drive electronic storage things right now that scan stuff and actually helps with this type of a system. So there's a lot of online tools right now that makes it really easy to keep these documents in order by family member and keeps it secure. And they have what they call legacy plan. So what you do is you decide, okay, if I'm not here anymore, all right, how do people access this? Not only your records, but also you think about your social media, okay?
Right.
Your Facebook. What do you want that to be after you're gone? Okay, and so there are legal means now available that you can actually give people access to that. They don't get access until afterwards, or whatever you want. There are some systems where you can give different access codes and stuff like that, and they even have. I'll show you a picture. They even have certain thumb drives that allow you to do that type of a thing. So,
wow.
So there's a lot that's happened over the past 10 years as far as this goes. So it's really good.
So many things to think about.
Yeah, but it looks like a lot. It sounds like a lot, but once you get it going, it's pretty easy. And I've had a lot of people actually doing it, and they're talking back, and they're like, "I'm so glad I did this. Yeah. I'm so glad I started when I was young." And it's just part of natural. I know something comes in the mail. I said, "Uh-oh, this is something that needs to go in there," and you just throw it in there.
Right. So your goal is to have kind of a list. If people wanted to start doing this, we go to the website in the town to your page.
Yep.
when it's up and going, right?
Yep.
I understand that, and then all of this these great ideas are going to be on there.
And the other thing we'll have onto what's called an EFAC system. So what it has is it actually walks you through financial considerations for getting prepared for a disaster type of a thing, which deals with all this access stuff and how you actually manage all your different accounts and stuff. So it's a walkthrough book. It's pretty easy to do, but it guides you through what you should be doing to, again, make sure you've got your vital records backed up, but also accessible in your demise, and also giving authorizations and permissions for people that will be left behind to take those things over for you, so you don't end up like the families that I just talked about that, you know, who's going to have the, and again, you think about 11 years trying to figure out your paperwork type of thing. I've talked to people who've been through this, and sometimes they say, you know, I wish if I had to choose between losing all my paperwork and my house. Everybody says, save the house, save the house. But once they've been through this misery, there's someone would say, no, I wish I had my paperwork type of a thing. Because you can recover that type of stuff.
All right, so hey, Ray, believe it or not, you and I just talk and talk and talk. We've got just about 3 minutes left. And I know there's so many things to say. So, you know, kind of as you think about closing remarks and what you want to leave people with, what do you want to hit here in our last couple minutes
and
together?
I think, you know, this is just one topic, and we're really trying to do this for pre-event, during event, and this is recovery type of a thing for disasters, and have that on our website and have the tools there for you, and also prioritize, because, you know, there is a lot. There is an awful lot to do and to think about, and you're like, what am I going to do? So we've also kind of put it in a priority type of thing. Say, you know, if I'm starting out right now, this is what I would do first. You know, I would recommend for you to do first and stuff like that. And it has to deal a little bit with protecting of your house, but the documents are right up there. And it seems like a lot. It's pretty easy once you get it going. So it's not a huge lift. But it is vital.
Well, wow. I mean, so impressive. And you said you've got a very large team helping you. Can you just speak a little to that, and like what kind of resources are out there, and who's mobilizing in Portsmouth real quick?
So it's, you know, I'm one person. I'm only paid for 20 hours a week. But
so it's officially a part-time role.
It's a part-time role,
Wow,
but I also teach at Mass Maritime College. But you know, I'm pretty much there full time. But I'm into it, I guess. But what I really want to emphasize is, you know, the plethora of volunteers that are coming. I mean, I have like the person who's doing the volunteer reception center for me. It's easy to get volunteers, but I have some volunteers coming in right now. Mike Russo and my comms team, a new person for my volunteer reception center, and they have leadership ability. They're willing to do the management of it, the overhead management, and actually have some leadership skills, as opposed to, you know, just give me a task and do something like that and stuff. So that is tremendously helpful, because what they're doing is they're planning for other people to come in. What I tell them is, with disaster management, we're probably not going to be doing the functions we plan for, a lot of us on, because we're harmed. The whole system, unlike a fire or police department, I'm planning for the people from Ohio to come in to help me, but I better have a system ready for them. You know, that volunteer reception, I have my comms team and all that sort of stuff. So I'm planning for that surge that's going to come in. So number one reason why we fail in disasters, it's not that we don't have the capability that's going to come in nationally. We don't have the capability locally, because by definition of disaster, we had damage locally. Our fire and police department are maxed out and damaged. But the way the national system is set up, and what I spend a lot of my time planning on, is when they come in, we're able to manage that capability.
Yeah, and utilize those resources most
and that's another reason why we fail at disasters, is it's not that we don't have the capability that's going to come in. We haven't planned to manage it locally, and we don't understand what's there. So that's what the EM does.
Thank goodness that we got you on the job. Ray, thank you for sharing this. I'm going to go home and get a go kit together.
When I started this, they didn't have this. But somebody's making money on it right now.
All right.
Like they even have like these drives with codes on it. Yeah, and this is fireproof and waterproof, and it's designed for.
All right. Well, thank you. We'll have you on again.
All right.
This has been Portsmouth This Week with my guest, Ray Perry. Get your Go Kit going. We'll see you next time.